Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name's Theo, and I've always been the kind of man who thrives in his own company. I'm a writer, and my profession demands long hours alone, which suits me perfectly. Writing is my safe place, the one corner of the world where everything feels clear and orderly. Social events, on the other hand, are my personal nightmare. The noise, the meaningless small talk, the forced interest in things I don't care about. It drains me completely. So, whenever possible, I avoid them altogether. For a long time, there was only one thing in my life that mattered more than my work: my marriage. Notice I said was my wife, Lucy, and I had been together for years. But the truth is, we stopped functioning as a real couple a long time ago. We didn't argue much, but we barely spoke either. We simply coexisted under the same roof. Somewhere along the way, the love we once shared disappeared into the empty space between us. Lucy was nothing like me, social, ambitious, always in the center of the action. She worked in a fast-paced consulting job that seemed to demand every ounce of her attention. Late nights at the office became routine. Business trips often stretched longer than necessary. At first, I questioned it. Why so late? Can't you wrap things up earlier? When will we have time together? Her answers were always vague and repetitive. Eventually, I stopped asking. I accepted the truth. She didn't make time for me because she didn't want to. So, I retreated into my own world, my writing, my books, my solitude. It was easier that way. Then, one evening, Lucy mentioned a company party. She didn't just suggest I come. She insisted. She claimed it would be good for me, a chance to meet some of the brightest minds in her industry, a networking opportunity. She called it. I had no desire to mingle with corporate executives or pretend to care about their strategies. But the way she pressed the matter caught my attention. She wasn't just inviting me. She was pushing hard for it. A part of me thought, maybe this was her way of trying. Maybe this was her attempt to bring me into her world, the way I had always wanted. Against my usual instincts, I said yes. If there was even the slightest chance this could help repair what was broken between us, I was willing to endure a few hours of forced smiles and shallow conversation. I had no idea then that agreeing to that party would set the stage for the end of everything. When we arrived, we looked like the perfect couple. Lucy wore an elegant, form-fitting dress that turned heads instantly. I had made an effort too, putting on a tailored suit, though I couldn't have cared less about impressing anyone. The event was exactly what you'd expect from a high-profile corporate gathering, polished grand, filled with well-dressed professionals discussing stocks, mergers, and strategies over overpriced wine. Lucy immediately began introducing me to her colleagues. Their reactions were almost identical: polite smiles, curiosity, and a familiar line. "So you're Theo. We've heard so much about you. Great to finally meet you." I shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and realized my presence was more of a novelty than anything else. I was a mysterious husband they'd only heard about. Some tried to draw me into conversation about my work, my books, or topics they assumed would interest me. To my surprise, I found myself engaging more than I expected. The night was tolerable. The drinks weren't bad, the conversations weren't unbearable. And for the first time in a long while, Lucy seemed to acknowledge me in her world. I knew it wouldn't magically fix our marriage, but I allowed myself to hope it might be a step forward. Then the music shifted, the lights dimmed, and couples began moving to the dance floor. That's when I noticed him, a man walking directly toward us. He ignored me completely and looked straight at Lucy. "Shall we?" he asked smoothly, holding out his hand like her answer was already guaranteed. I expected Lucy to decline, to laugh it off and stay by my side. Instead, she smiled, ready to accept. Before she could move, I placed my hand firmly on her wrist. My voice was low, controlled. "You're not going anywhere." The man, Wilson, as I would later learn, finally looked at me. No words at first, just a long, deliberate glance. I held my ground. "If you want to dance with my wife, ask properly. Otherwise, don't." That should have ended it. But Lucy turned on me with visible anger. "What is wrong with you?" she snapped, yanking her arm away. "You're embarrassing me." I froze, shocked. She brushed past me toward Wilson without hesitation, ready to go with him right in front of me. "If you take one step, I warned, this marriage ends." Wilson finally faced me fully. His voice was quiet, deliberate. "You've always been weak. You won't do a thing." Without breaking eye contact, he took Lucy's hand and walked away, and she went with him. Humiliation crashed over me, but I refused to give them the satisfaction of a scene. I left the party alone. When Lucy came home later, I was still awake. I expected excuses, or at least an explanation. Instead, she launched straight into anger. "You embarrass me," she said sharply. "You left me there. You abandoned me at my own work event." In her mind, she was a victim. That's when I realized she didn't respect me. Not as a husband, not as a man. Without respect, a marriage is already doomed. I didn't bother arguing. I had something else to deal with first. Wilson, I'm not a man who looks for conflict, but I also don't ignore serious disrespect. Wilson had crossed a line, convinced I wouldn't respond. That was his mistake. The next day, I hired a private investigator. My instructions were simple. Find everything. Where he lives, who he talks to, his secrets, his habits. Everything. Weeks later, the results came in. Wilson was married with 2 kids. His wife looked blissfully unaware of who he truly was. But there was more, a record of complaints from women at his workplace about inappropriate behavior. Some were settled quietly, others dismissed. And then, the proof I had been waiting for, photos and videos of his affairs. Different women, different places, among them, Lucy. It hurt to see, but I didn't let the pain control me. Now I had leverage. The first strike was personal. His wife deserved to know. I packaged the evidence onto a USB drive with a note, "You deserve better." It was delivered to her doorstep. Then came the professional strike. I sent anonymous reports to his company's HR, detailing his harassment and affairs with coworkers. I created multiple email accounts to make it look like several employees were speaking out. Eventually, the company had no choice but to investigate. A month later, Wilson was fired. Lucy was suspended. The night she came home looking drained. I already knew everything. "Rough day?" I asked calmly. "You have no idea," she muttered. "I might," I replied. "Wilson's gone. And you're suspended, aren't you?" She tried to laugh it off, but I cut her escape short. "How long were you sleeping with him, Lucy?" She accused me of being paranoid, of imagining things. So I put the folder of evidence on the table. Her face went pale. Then came the tears. "You destroyed me, Theo. Was it your goal?" I didn't respond to the blame. I'd already made my decision. The divorce papers will be ready soon. If you have a problem, take it to court. I walked away, leaving her to face the consequences of her own actions. Now that it's over, here's what I learned. 1. Disrespect is a first step to betrayal. The moment Lucy chose to walk away with Wilson, it was over. It wasn't about the dance. It was about what it meant. 2. When people show you who they are, believe them. Lucy's late nights and excuses weren't coincidences. They were warnings I ignored. 3. Revenge is best served cold. That night, Wilson called me weak. But instead of reacting in anger, I waited, planned, and made sure every move counted. For reclaiming your power is never wasted. Some might say I should have just walked away. But I won't be the man who lets others trample over him. So now, I'll ask you, was I right to handle it this way? Or should I have done things differently?